Hello everyone. Today I'm here to do another recent reads. I try to do these monthly, like at least one or two a month, but lately it's only been one a month. But you know what? That's okay. We're still here. We're still doing good. This month I've already finished 4 books, but today I'm going to talk about 3 books. So yeah, if you don't know, these videos are just to talk about what I've read recently, what the books are about, what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them, and what I rated them. Also while all are spoiler free. So if you're interested in any of these books, I'll leave links down below for them, as well as timestamps in case you want to hear about one book in particular. Today, I'm talking about a wide array of genres. First up, we have The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberling and Osman Broca, an adult romance. Then we have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is an adult fantasy / contemporary, I guess. And the last one is Part of Your World by Abby Hamezim, which is another adult romance book. So again, timestamps will be down below. Let's get into it. First book, The Roughest Draft. I read this one because I really am a big fan of their YA books. They predominantly write YA books, contemporary books at that. And I noticed there's a big trend lately with young adult authors taking the switch to adult romance. And usually it's gone really well with, for example, Emily Henry has written some really great adult romance books, which is interesting because I don't enjoy her YA books at all. Rachel Lynn Solomon, who I love her YA contemporary books, but she also writes really great romance books. I still need to read Sana Menon's one because she's another one that's made that foray. So this is the latest kind of author duo to make that transition. And I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5, and the reviews on this book are they're not the best, and I can understand why. So this book is interesting in the fact where we follow 2 authors, Katrina and Nathan. They met when they were in college, and they decided to write together, and they wrote 2 really popular books, like New York's best time seller. But as soon as their second book came out that was really, really popular, they split up. The author duo split up, never to talk to again. It's been I don't know how many years it's been. That's the recycling people outside. I apologize, but I gotta work still. But basically it's been many years since they've talked, and they have 1 book left on their contract, and they both kind of need the money. So they're like, fine, we'll go to Florida to kind of our house where we do our writing at, and we'll write one last book together. So it's all about their writing their last book together, also while having snippets of the past when they wrote their last book that was so popular, and what kind of made them kind of never talk again. You could put 2 and 2 together, obviously, but this book is like the definition of yearning. Like if there was a book that characters would yearn for each other the whole entire time, it would be this book. This also is the picture perfect book for miscommunication. Both these characters do not know how to communicate at all. They don't ever say exactly what they want.
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
And you get to see the writing process, which I actually really enjoyed, how they exchanged pages, how they wrote with each other. But goodness me, I could see why people don't love this book, because they just dance around the subject. They are so juvenile when it comes to talking. You have 2 best-selling authors that can communicate on paper feeling so adequately well with words and juxtaposition and everything like that. But when it comes to talking face to face, it's like, words, what are they? I don't know how to explain how I feel. So I can understand it. I enjoyed it. The yearning and the miscommunication made the ending much more satisfactory for me. But goodness me, it is annoying. Both characters are annoying as mess because you know what they want to say, but they just won't say it. I'm like, you're 2 grown people. Just say what you want to say. It's not that complicated. You're making this way more complicated. You're putting a huge vast of ocean between you and what you need to say, when it does not need to be that. It needs to be a tiny little puddle of, you know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. So people don't like this book, I can see why. But I enjoyed the writing. I really enjoyed how they, like I said, they wrote the characters and how it was all about them writing books. And I think even these authors got this idea while on their honeymoon. So I enjoyed it, a 4 out of 5, but I could see why a lot of people would not like it because of all of those reasons I listed. But if you want a book that is about authors and about miscommunication 100% and a whole bunch of yearning, this book is really good for that. Next up, we have my favorite book of the bunch, is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This was very popular here on BookTube a couple years ago, with good reason. I've been having my eye on it ever since. Finally my library hold came in, and I have to say, I loved it. 5 out of 5. Not surprised at all. This book is the embodiment of sunshine, a warm hug. If you just are in a bad place, like if you're just like, you know, in a funk kind of maybe, in a slump maybe, or just you need a book that will just cheer you up, this is the book for you. So this is a book that kind of is like resemble, just bear with me here, like X-Men, if you will. You have all these magical youth, and everyone does not like these magical youth, so they put them in orphanages, and so the orphanages are run by different people. So you follow a main character, I forgot his name, I'm horrible, Linus, who works at this corporation to oversee kind of these orphanages. So he has to go visit them to make sure the kids are being taken care of, make sure the owner's doing well, things like that. Then basically he gets called up by like the head people to be like, hey, you need to go to this really super secret orphanage that like nobody talks about, it's top secret, like the worst kids get sent there, and we need to know if it's being run okay or not. And so Linus goes, and he is met with a band of kids that are just so adorable, like the worst of the worst. You have like, names to forgive me, we have a garden gnome that's a girl, and she's like 245 years old with like a long white beard. You have Chauncey, I do remember his name, he's like a big green blob, like think of Monsters Inc. kind of thing, who desperately wants to be a bellhop. And you have a girl that is a forest sprite with like wings and things like that. You have I forget the name of his, it's, what is it? He's like kind of a dragon, if you will. I'll put up some fan art, if you will. That's how I kind of pictured them. But he's just a little dragon that likes to collect like little buttons and little things like that and trinkets, and has like a little hoard, if you will, a wyvern, something like that. And then you have a character that can turn into like a Pomeranian, like at the drop of a hat. That's very interesting. And then you have, the son of the devil, Lucy, or known as Lucifer. And yeah, and so Linus goes there, and he is immediately freaked out, and he meets the owner of this guy, I think his name's Jasper, the owner of the whole orphanage, and he just falls in love with the kids, with Jasper, and it's just adorable. Like, goodness me, you want to go to this island and just hang out with these kids all freaking day. It is the epitome of a warm hug. Like, it's super, super adorable. Like, I can't get over it. Of course, this is going to be my favorites at the end of the year. Nobody will be surprised. I don't think I've not seen it on a favorites list ever when somebody's read it, because it's just so freaking cute. Like, goodness me, there's a sequel to this book called Under the Whispering Door. I'm already on my library hold for that one. Who knows when that will come in. I haven't heard as many good things about that one as this one, but we'll see. But this was just, I can't get over it. It's just super cute. Like, if you just want happiness in a book, look no further. And then the last book I want to talk about is Part of Your World by Abby Hamezin. I've read all of her books. Like I said, she writes adult romance books, and I did not enjoy her first book at all. And then I read her second one. That's been my favorite. I forget, Not Happy Ever After Playlist. That was really good. And then she had one last year that I liked but didn't love. And then we have this one. And this one I kind of would put right in the middle of all those. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. Book, we follow two characters. Alexis, who is a rich girl. She's an ER doctor. She comes from like hospital royalty. Her dad was like the chief of surgery. Her mom, like, they are just royalty, and they want her to like be the chief of the ER surgeons, stuff like that, you know, Grey's Anatomy stuff, I don't know. And then we have Daniel, and Daniel is from a small town, a very small town, and he's like a farmer guy. He likes to do carpentry. He's also the mayor of this small town. Basically, through a weird chance of events, these two people meet and they hook up, and that's about it. But then Alexis feels drawn to Daniel, and she decides to maybe start a relationship with him with no strings attached, because that always works out, no strings attached. But either way, that's kind of the whole gist of the book. It's basically like a rich girl meets poor boy, and how they can never be together because of their really different circumstances, which again is another thing. I'm just like, miscommunication, like, just like I think she really communicated how she felt of how they can never really truly be together, but it was just so like, really. But the romance was really adorable in this book. It's also an age gap romance. She's about 38 years old, I believe, and he's about 27, 28. And she was like, I'm so old. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm already like, I think I'll be 34 this year. So I'm like, oh God, I'm feeling this. But I'm like, you're not. We're still young. We're still young. We still got it. We're still desirable women. But either way, so basically it was an age gap romance with a kind of a rich girl, poor boy, how they could never be together because they're from two separate worlds, aka part of your world, get the title. And it was cute. I think I would give it a 3.5, 3.75 out of 5. I didn't love it nearly as much as I wanted to. I really have my favorite book by this author is The Never Happy. Oh my gosh. Here it is right here. This one is my favorite book by this author. I loved it. I felt the chemistry between the characters was amazing. This one, the chemistry was good. I just felt like there was just like, they made things so much more complicated than they needed to be. Also, this book talks a lot about abuse. Alexis suffered from abuse in a different form, not physical abuse, but emotional abuse in her previous relationship. And you get to see her talk about that a lot. There's also talks about physical abuse in this book, so just as well. So there's a lot of talk of abuse in this book. So in case you need to know that for trigger reasons, but I thought the author handled it really well. She wrote it with open and honesty, and I thought she really brought awareness to the subject, and I thought she handled the topic really, really well. So that's a big factor of this book as well. So overall, like I said, I gave it like a 3.5, 3.75. I enjoyed it, but just not nearly as much as her previous book. I can't find one that I've loved as much as her second book. I just truly love that book so much. I also really love that she sprinkles in past characters from her books in this series. I just really enjoy them. But at the end of the day, I enjoy this author's writing a ton. I enjoy the romances she writes. I enjoy the real topics that she brings. It's not all just happy and romantic and steamy stuff. There's a lot of realness behind her books, and I enjoy it for that matter. So I'd recommend all of her books. Not her first one. I really did not like the first one. Gosh, I did not like the first one. I think the main character in the first book she wrote really just turned me off of that book. But either way, I enjoyed this book. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I still am glad I read it and will continue to read whatever this author puts out. So there you have my thoughts and feelings on these 3 books, plus the other one that I don't physically have. It's clear to say my favorite is definitely this one, but I enjoyed all of them. I'm happy to have read all of them. I think the only one that you'll see probably at the end of the year me talk about a ton will be this one. Who's surprised? Probably no. I would love to know if you've read any of these books, if I swayed you to read them, or if I maybe dissuade you. Is that a word? Dissuade? Or maybe not made you want to read them? I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.